Hey guys, what is up and welcome to a new Tesla update video. So today, as per usual, let's go over Tesla stock. Let's go over what is happening in the market and what we can expect moving forward into the rest of the week. Tomorrow we have FOMC, of course, rate decision, and I believe JPow's talking. So yeah, all that being said and done, let's just jump into it. If you enjoyed, don't forget to hit that like button. This is not financial advice, and I am not a financial advisor. And of course, if you do enjoy my analysis, etc., I do share my thoughts every single day. The market is open in my membership section on YouTube. That link is down below in the description of the video. Where again, I constantly share my thoughts, post updates, etc., on Tesla stocks, sometimes other stocks as well, pretty much every day for just $3 a month or for $5. You get access to all that, plus NVIDIA. Daily updates in there as well. But ladies and gentlemen, jumping right into it, in NVIDIA, Tesla rather, closing the day up a beautiful 3.64% on the day, closing at pretty much $480 per share. Once again, rocketing up even higher. Just when you think it can't go any higher, well, it goes higher, right? Plain and simple, it just simply goes higher. So what does this mean moving forward? So let's talk about a few things, right? Let's start off with the smaller time frame, right? On the 15-minute. Like I said, when Tesla's going this parabolic, and you want to play, not you want to play, but you want to get more just kind of, zoomed in, like actually understanding what the hell's happening when it's pretty much just going up on the daily chart. You got to go to the smaller time frames. And that's exactly what's been, happening. So for the most part, we were looking pretty nice, right? Had that rising triangle yesterday, had a nice little breakout above that. Pretty much went to that 480-ish range, started getting rejected. And then we were actually on the 5-minute chart here. You can see setting up a bit of a bull flag, right? I'll just draw like this, just a very small example like this, right? And then of course we broke down, you can see here, rejected it, and then went all the way down right into that exact same support area that it was back here that rejected us many, many times before. Actually bounced off of it, some little scary candles here, but nonetheless still bounced off of it. Didn't actually close below it, which is important. And we will just continue rocketing ever since and pretty much went back to about the same day highs, which, is starting to prove a little bit of a problem to get past. Right, you can see this kind of very low 480s is actually starting to finally show some issues a little bit here. Now whether or not we'll get past it is a different story, but so far that's kind of the problem, right? And pretty much if you want to see Tesla move up any higher, in my opinion, a 15-minute candle closure above, I'd say like at least 483 to as high as about 485. Somewhere around that $2-ish range, you'd want to see a 15-minute candle closure above, and essentially that's probably going to make us go even higher, and I wouldn't be surprised if we see closer to $500 per share. Honestly, at this point, probably even this week, right? But again, we need to get a nice little move back up like this, come back down, take this area that is clearly a resistance, turn into support, and then make our way higher. Really just that simple, ultimately. That's a more zoomed in approach, right? That's kind of what's happening on the more smaller time frames, and that's, more or less what I expect to happen moving into, really just potentially even tomorrow, or maybe the rest of the week, right? Again, very zoomed in approach, very, very simple, but, effective, really. So now this is where we start going to the more zoomed out approach, right? This is where we go on the daily chart. And this is where I'm going to go back to my bands, right? So let's talk about the ones I usually talk about, right? Which is going to be the bands here, which again, extremely oversold, potentially even forming a spinning top doji candle. So, or potentially a hanging man candle, whichever you want to call it. That's definitely showing some signs here, right? I wouldn't say it's a top signal. As usual, with any quote unquote top signal, you need confirmation to confirm it's a top signal. So this, it shows a little bit of hesitancy, right? It does show, okay, not as convincing as it usually is, but with that being said, we need actual confirmation. Just off of this alone, let's say I was someone looking to short Tesla. I wouldn't see this candle and be like, sweet, all in shorts, right? No, that's not how it works, right? You want to see confirmation. You want to see something more to it than that. And in my opinion, one way to definitely see some confirmation is actually going to be losing 460. If we ever lose this 460 range down here, like I just showed you, and we start closing candles back below, that will start showing weakness in my opinion. And I think that's when the, mini cool off, you can say, will probably start beginning on Tesla stock. So that's probably what I'll be looking for, or if you're a bear, that's what you'll be looking for. If you're looking for like a cool off or whatever the case may be, and you want Tesla to stop only going up for whatever reason, that's probably what you want to be looking for. But again, going back to the daily chart, right? Again, the bands are extremely, super duper ridiculously overbought. It is what it is. But obviously when a stock goes parabolic, the bands aren't as useful, right? The bands are more useful when the stock is relatively range bound, or at least making zigzags upwards in a more traditional sense, essentially, not when it's just pretty much going parabolic, squeezing beyond belief, which is obviously what Tesla's doing. This is when the bands obviously get less effective because, well, it's been overbought for quite a while now, right? And it's continuing to be more and more overbought. This is where you need more, right? You need more to your technical analysis essentially to kind of get a better idea. And this is where we bring in obviously the EMA cloud, right? The 9 EMA at the top and the 21 EMA at the bottom. That's what this green little cloud is. So like I've been saying for quite a long time, as long as Tesla remains to be above this cloud and especially above the top of the cloud, which is the 9 EMA, it's bullish. Now it is a little overextended even from the 9 EMA, which has me a little bit concerned obviously because it's a little too far gone now, even when you put it into a correlation with a very quick moving indicator like the 9 EMA. But nonetheless, it's still obviously going parabolic and, there's still no obvious blatant signs of the top is in essentially, right? Nothing is showing that just yet. We're getting hints of it. We are getting a little bit of hints of it, but a hint is not enough, especially when a stock is this parabolic. You need more to it than that. So the point I'm trying to make here is the fact that as long as Tesla, remains above at the very least, not at the very least, but especially rather, I should say, above that 9 EMA, I would not, there's no reason to even consider this, this train stopping, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And for all we know, it'll go even higher. And again, a break above today's high and a hold above today's high should yield about $500 per share. Literally could be tomorrow. Now, another way of looking at it, this is a new indicator I'm trying out, which is also bands. It's pretty much the Bollinger Bands, Bollinger Bands, whatever. It's the Bollinger Bands, but with a little bit of extra, spice added to it, right? Where you can see in the middle of the Bollinger Band, there's also this little band, right? Similar to this band I was using right here, right? This band is same idea, but it's substantially more aggressive. It's even more aggressive than that band, right? And the point of this band is the fact that you can see, whenever Tesla goes parabolic, and it kind of slows down, the band turns red, the signal of sell comes in, and then, that essentially implies either a top or at the very least a cool off, right? And then obviously we had that massive gap up, it says buy, and then you continue up. And then, it says sell here. And then, obviously as it said sell, we pretty much started consolidating sideways. We started forming that rising triangle and it said buy pretty much on the breakout, and then we continued up even higher. And the best part is there's no sell signal, even on this one. And the reason I say even on this one is because, like I said, obviously the Bollinger Bands are something else entirely, right? Which it is also implying that we're exceptionally overbought, but not even these bands, which are even more aggressive than what I was showing with the 9 EMA, which, for comparison's sake, you can see here, right? Substantially more aggressive. I actually don't even know what EMAs this is using, I'll be completely honest with you, but if I had to guess, it's probably like a 4 and a 2 or like a 3 and a 5 or something like that. It's very, very aggressive, right? Very, very, very aggressive. But even this one is still, not showing a sell signal, right? So this to me tells me the fact that, as far as I'm aware, it's still strong. This trend is still strong. And even as long as this very aggressive one remains a buy, there's no reason to be looking for a true top signal just yet. But if we see a top signal, maybe like this one, and if we start losing 460s, and this very aggressive band, for instance, really starts to turn red, okay, now we can start talking about a cool off, or at the very least sideways movement for a sideways correction, right? So that's going to be the main things I'll be looking at moving forward for Tesla. Now, the other question, of course, is, okay, but let's just say, in theory, let's say a cool off begins. So let's say a small correction begins. What levels to look out for to the downside, right? Where can it go to the downside, right? Well, this is where we want to go back to the 15-minute chart. Let me remove all indicators for now. And again, the first level, like I said, is going to be 460, right? But I also think that if we lose 460, we most likely probably begin that small correction. That's where the next levels really come into play. And this is where you want to look at, and I believe Tesla actually may come down all the way to about $430 per share, which you can see here, acted as a bit of a resistance right here and right here, right? So I wouldn't be surprised to see about $430 per share, but probably closer to about $425 or $6 per share. So about that $4 or $5 range, right around here, would be the first major level I would see Tesla coming back down to if we lose 460. Because again, you have to remember, when we go up this parabolic, whenever the music stops playing, we will most likely go down, probably more or less just as fast. You have to understand that, right? That's just how this thing works. You don't go up this fast without probably coming down just as fast as well, sometimes even faster. So that would be the first level I'll look for to the downside, assuming this correction begins, and honestly, assuming we lose $460 per share. That's the first level. The second level, and probably the most important level, while still maintaining, overall bullishness short term, even for Tesla, because this correction would be, in my opinion, very short term. But the short term, not the very short term, just the short term momentum should still be bullish, as long as, in my opinion, we hold the previous all-time highs, which is about that $415 per share. Because as long as we hold that, I actually think Tesla will still be very, very strong. And I still think it'll potentially come back down like this. And there's a very good chance it bounces from this general vicinity right here and makes its way even higher, right? But if we lose 415 in that previous all-time highs, that to me is going to start signaling extra weakness. And at that point, I would expect this correction to be even steeper. And then my next target, if we lose 415, First level will be 400, but honestly, I'll probably really start eyeballing closer down to about 360, the low 360s we'll say, which was this ascending triangle breakout. So those are the main levels to the downside that I'll look for, which with, again, each level that's broken, you have my relative targets. To make it very simple, once again, losing 460, I expect about 425 to 430 to as low as 415. However, 415 is another line in the sand. Losing 415, at the very least 400, but I'll probably be starting to expect closer to $360, which sounds insane, but the issue is when we go up this parabolic, that's a 25% drop down, by the way. Keep that in mind. That's very large. But this can happen after such a parabolic move on Tesla, assuming it, of course, even happens. I'm not saying it will, but assuming we get those triggers and, that correction more or less begins, easily can happen in a few days, right? Even in a few days. So you have to just understand that if this music stops, it will most likely be a pretty substantial correction very, very quickly, a very scary candle. It'll punish a lot of the bulls or just people really chasing this way too late now, because you shouldn't be chasing this, right? If you're, not financial advice, just my opinion, if you're still playing Tesla, right? If you're trading Tesla, etc., in my opinion, the only way to play it right now is the short time frames. Like you have to be playing it on like the 15-minute or the 5-minute. Otherwise, there's just nothing to gain off of the daily candle knowledge. It's pretty much just completely parabolic, and if you're not already in it, you're not supposed to chase this. Like it's foolish to chase this. It's very foolish. Like you have to be kind of don't chase this. I guess is all I'm trying to say. Like this is not a chart that you chase, right? This is why this is only a chart that you play in the shorter time frames. Like I said, with these kind of movements I've been showing you. Because again, once the music stops, and at some point it will, I don't know when, I'm not saying it will now, nobody knows when, but at some point it will. And whenever it does, we most likely will get a pretty steep, pretty scary candle to really punish these bulls that were coming into this way too late. Like for instance, you can see back when we were going initially parabolic to all-time highs, right? Just completely and utterly going parabolic. And look at this candle, right? Even just off of this in 2 days, even in 3 days, we dropped 20% off of pretty much all-time highs, right? 20% in 3 days. This is the kind of move that I wouldn't be surprised if we get, at some point. Nobody knows when. It's kind of like we're playing hot potato right now. At some point, it's going to explode, right? It's going to explode at some point. There's nothing suggesting it should yet, but at some point it will, and you don't want to be that person that bought the top, right? So that's why, and I'm not saying this to scare people. I'm not saying this, I was like, oh my God, guys, it's about to crash. Watch out. I'm not trying to say those kind of things. I'm just trying to warn people to be really careful because, again, this is not something you chase. And if it's something you're playing, not financial advice, again, just me thinking out loud, just my opinion, it has to be played on the short term, 5 minute, 10, 15, like it has to be played on the short term. There's really no other way to play this, in my opinion, of course. But yeah, that's kind of the main thing I'm looking at for Tesla right now. Let's take a quick look at options flow. Let's see what's happening. Also, tomorrow is, of course, FOMC, so let's see how that plays out. Options flow is still extremely and stupidly bullish. It's pretty much towards the end of the day, we had a 9 million and a 6 million call and a 3 million call come in for, actually, this is 2025. I lied, never mind. I thought this was for this Friday, I'll be honest. It's 2025. But nonetheless, we had a 3 million come in for 1220. 355 strikes. So the bulls are still stepping in, man. The bulls are still stepping in. They're obviously not done with this stock just yet. But again, the thing with options flow you have to be careful about is the fact that there's many times where I've seen really bullish flow on Tesla or NVIDIA just for the stock to crash not long after. So again, in my opinion, you want to take options flow with a grain of salt, personally. I mean, at least I do personally, because in my opinion, the chart usually tells the story, right? And if the chart tells you something, that's probably what's going to happen next. Not perfect, of course, right? For instance, as an example, Apple had a very bearish looking candle right here, right? Look at this candle right here, like super bearish. Like this candle right here was screaming like short me, please short me. This is what this candle was screaming just for it to go higher. So again, nothing is perfect, right? You have to understand that nothing is perfect whatsoever. But with that being said, usually the charts will be able to tell the story. But in my opinion, just watch for 460. If we lose 460, that's, in my opinion, warning signs. But yeah, thanks for watching. And as usual, I'll see you for the next one. Peace.